From the black to the reservation, any color, all my relations, the most universal of truths said in the simplest of ways. Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to our 7th We Can Climate Action Provincial Assembly, or CAPA. My name is Tara Shushtarian, and I am your MC for today. I do apologize that we do not have the incredible Anjali Appadurai, but then every day is not a Sunday and today is a Thursday. To make up for it, we have a special message from the spirit world. It's Albert Einstein, whose birthday it is today, and in celebration of which today is also World Scientists' Day. So I will ask Guy to share his message. Over to you, Guy.
Thank you. So, dear Albert knew we were doing this, and he sent us this special message on the occasion of his birthday, thanks to ChatGPT. It brings me immense joy to learn that you have chosen to convene your assembly on my birthday. The urgency of our times compels us to unite in purpose and action, to safeguard the fragile balance of our planet and to steer our course towards a sustainable future. Your dedication in addressing the pressing challenges posed by climate change is a testament to the indomitable spirit of human ingenuity and compassion. As you gather to exchange ideas, forge alliances, and chart the course for collective action, may the guiding light of reason illuminate your path. Let us remember that the solutions we seek lie not in the distant reaches of the cosmos, but within the collective will and determination of humanity. On this auspicious day, may your endeavors be blessed with success. May the seeds of change you sow today blossom into a verdant tomorrow for generations to come. With warm regards, Albert Einstein, born on this day in 1879, which is also Pi Day and World Science Day. Thank you, Tara.
Thank you. Thank you, Guy, because that was so beautifully read out. And thank you, Albert. And thank you, ChatGPT. So as I mentioned, my name is Tara, and I'm a South Asian guest settler on the unceded traditional territories of the Hunkaminam and Squamish-speaking peoples, the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh nations. In our continual effort to be inclusive, I shall describe myself for the visually impaired. So I'm a South Asian, pleasantly plump, middle-aged woman with short hair framing my face that I desperately try to keep neat. I'm wearing a patterned purple sweater with tassels, and it sounds more exotic than it actually looks. So now for some housekeeping. This event is being recorded, so you may want to turn off your camera if you don't want people to see your lovely faces. The breakout rooms will not be recorded. And at this time, we would request everyone to introduce yourselves via the chat function, your name, pronouns optional, the territory you are joining from, and the group you are active with. We absolutely encourage vibrant conversations amongst yourselves via the chat function. But please remain muted till there is an opportunity to speak, preferably in the breakout rooms. If you need help or any technical assistance, please don't hesitate to message us. Using the chat feature, look for a Zoom name that includes tech support and someone will help you as soon as possible. So why are we gathered here today? Our purpose in this CAPA is to work together on our different realms of climate action and to find ways in which we can help each other to accelerate climate action in BC. To start us in a good way, We Can acknowledges Canada as the land of the First Peoples, the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. We therefore acknowledge and honor the treaty lands and the unceded traditional territories on which we all reside, work, and recreate on. We are grateful for Indigenous knowledge and ways of being as we unlearn and relearn the history of Canada. Those of us in We Can who are settlers continue to evolve in the process and the responsibility of reconciliation and how to become good allies and accomplices in the implementation of DRIPA, the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act, which we persistently remind our government of. Indigenous communities are at the forefront of climate action, and to be in solidarity with them is crucial. I would like to share a teaching and a blessing, if I may. After I listened to Chief Dan George's prayer and what is now becoming famous as the Coast Salish anthem, I visited the watch house on Burnaby Mountain and the sentient old being Mother Cedar who shades us and in whose embrace we have celebrated numerous ceremonies, as many of you know. I looked up and there was an eagle encircling up above. I was transfixed in my meditative silence. So I humbly acknowledge the good omen this brings to our gathering. Now, a quick run through the agenda. First, Douglas Court-Manch will share some slides that summarize the takeaways from last month's CAPA 1. We will then spend an hour in breakout groups with each group based on a realm of action, such as transportation or stop LNG. At 8 o'clock, we will reassemble to learn what the groups have been working on. And then that's it. We will finish at 8:30. I will now hand over to Doug to summarize the main takeaways from the speakers and the breakout groups in CAPA 1. And many apologies, Doug, if I've mispronounced your name yet again. Over to you, Doug.
Thank you, Tara. I'm Doug Courtemanche. I'm a semi-retired surgeon, a white settler. I live on Musqueam territory. Our last event, our host, Anjali Appadurai, invited us to look at the wisdom already shared and to take a global view, to recognize that climate justice is a global problem tied to colonialism, capitalism, economic injustice, and war, to meet our neighbors where they are, to build relationships and practice care, and to dare to ask for big things. She asked us to help new people join the movement and create a vision of a climate-safe future. Janelle Lapointe from the David Suzuki Foundation reminded us that environmentalism is intersectional. We will know we're winning when we can feel the movement winning on Indigenous land. She asked that we make reciprocal relationships with Indigenous communities in our local areas to be good allies, organize everyday people and give them something to do, bring in people who care about other crises, and see the impact of the climate crisis as a motivator, and that we tell the true narrative: climate change is due to colonial capitalism. Koopsie Judy Red Hummingbird Woman asked us to recognize the connectedness of everything and the devastation disrupted by climate change, and reminded us we have responsibilities to all our relations to maintain the balance and harmony in nature and become a caretaker of the earth. We must hold government accountable. We need everyone to stand up, do the work needed to turn things around, including as consumers and investors. Kai Nagata from Dogwood asked that we listen to what our neighbors are telling us. The number one issue is affordability, and pointed out that LNG exports will increase the cost of living. He implored us to protect water. Fresh water is decreasing all over BC. We need water for fish, farms, or fracking, but not all three. And he stressed the need to deepen our love for and care for the land, become part of a reciprocal relationship with the place where you live, be a part of the land you are an advocate for. Kiki Wood from Stand.earth highlighted our need to work at the intersection with social issues, housing, healthcare, and affordability. Make climate a part of all of these issues and collaborate on these issues since they are linked. To do this, we must work in community. Relationships bring people in and keep people in the climate advocacy space. We should ask ourselves, how are we showing up at events? How can we be positive compared to the news? And we should hold bad actors accountable. This kind of action feels good and is inspiring. How do we counteract the social license of fossil fuel companies? Manvi Bala, an amazing, energetic young climate activist, encouraged us to work towards a common goal, build community, learn about the interconnectedness of environmental and social issues, use it to inform policy development. She suggested the use of art as a creative, fun way to communicate with the public, to help us drive a cultural shift, help people care for their environment and community, make engagement in advocacy the norm. She spoke about self-care as well, holding people accountable, take a rest, then keep working. Be strategic, sustain yourself for the long term. And she spoke of the need for a blueprint for interaction with the government, including about voting. Reuben George of the Tsleil-Waututh asked us to learn from Indigenous traditions, connect with the air, water, and land, make a reciprocal relationship with the earth, say no to TMX, clean the inlet, help people with their global spiritual trauma. Many in the climate activist movement see the crisis as evidence of humanity's loss of our spiritual connection to our Mother Earth. Seth Klein from the Climate Emergency Unit reminded us to vote, make the climate emergency a central issue for the 2024 provincial election, demand a genuine climate emergency response. Stop making things worse with gas, LNG, and fracking. To change the script, talk about exciting things the public can get on board with to address climate and economic anxiety. Free heat pumps, public transport, e-bikes. He asked us to hold a youth climate forum and invite youth, and suggested we should consider more dramatic action, more civil disobedience, do something big, target fossil fuel company offices, be in emergency mode. And finally, Guy Dauncey from We Can't asked us all to pull together for the big campaigns, to share big visionary ideas and positive news about climate progress. Climate solutions will reduce the cost of living, fossil fuels will increase it. We then moved on to the breakout rooms where everyone was invited to answer 2 questions about the strengths and stretches of the climate active group they work with. Here is what you told us. Group strengths are their proactive engagement, heightened awareness, dedication and credibility are driving forces, effective networking and communication. The bigger the group, the stronger the voice. Intersectionality and Indigenous engagement. Elders were acknowledged as bringing knowledge, experience, and time to climate efforts. Local government engagement. Many groups actively involved at the municipal and regional level, but not so much at the provincial or federal level, committed to influencing policy. And well-defined structures, boards, reliable volunteers, and staff contribute to organizational effectiveness. How can we stretch? What do we want? Scale up. People want to amplify efforts through larger campaigns, community-wide actions, civil disobedience. Some would risk going to jail. Strengthen connections in communities with youth and in the workplace. Improve communication strategies, including one-to-one engagement and the use of art. And transition from volunteer-based to formal organizations with staff, tech skills, scientific knowledge, and financial resources. Barriers to our success include fossil fuel advertising campaigns about how the economy will collapse if we transition away from fossil fuels. Other issues such as affordability, housing, and mental health concerns distract people from the climate crisis despite the intersection with the climate crisis. Burnout within our groups, overcoming misinformation, disinformation, and social conflict, and engaging with naysayers presents significant hurdles. But there are opportunities for success. Prioritize food and water security campaigns, habitat protection, and renewable energy. Support environmentally conscious politicians, advocate for regulatory changes. Redirect investments away from fossil fuels, hold governments accountable for carbon footprints. Campaign on transportation, renewable energy, EVs, transitioning off fossil fuels, divestment, food and water security, and habitat protection. Back to you, Tara.
Thanks, Doug. That was so expansive and precise and laser focused, as well as with many, many teachings. And I will have to congratulate you because so many people in the chat are asking for your presentation. So that's great. And oh, and I have to say something about Doug. I mean, he's Mr. Intersectionality himself. He's a plastic surgeon, a climate activist, as well as a budding musician. So yeah, that was really good. And I have to see where my slides are. Can get the okay. So now in advance of our breakout groups, in 5 minutes, we will go into our breakout rooms. Each group will discuss an active realm of climate action, such as transportation or stop LNG. The link to the 32 realms chart is in the chat. Look at the realms and add the name of your group to each realm where you are currently running an initiative or a campaign. If there are several members from your group, please watch what each of you are doing so as not to duplicate, as because we want as many voices and ideas as possible. You have 5 minutes to do this, and we will play some music, and then we'll all come back at the end of the 5 minutes. Thank you.
And you've been up all night, so go home and do some rest. Are you going to go home before I change my mind?
When your world is getting sold and your sun is turning cold, find the light that's in your soul. Don't let it burn away. You can wait, you can wander around, you can stand a little longer till you're branded by your pain. Seething in the rain, reaching for your patch of sunshine again in your eyes. I may falter, through the crowds. I'm no louder than those talking in the breeze, clinging to the trees, clutching to their facts and their poetry. When your world is getting sold and your sun is turning cold, find the light that's in your soul. Don't let it burn away. Don't let it burn. Now ashen skies, clouds will rise, blinkers will burn our eyes. Beneath it all, I seem so small, afraid of what we have done, afraid of what we've become. Till the moment I say, for the rest of my life, I will not rest till I'm done. When your world is getting sold and your sun is turning cold, find the light that's in your soul. Don't let it burn away. When all the songs have all been told and the rhymes are made of gold, find the light that's in our souls. Don't let it burn away. Don't let it burn away. Don't let it burn. Don't let it burn. Don't let it burn. Don't let it burn.
Welcome back. In a moment, we'll show you the 32 breakout rooms. Choose your group and remember its number. Choose a backup group in case you are the only one in your group. If you find yourself in a very small group and you would want to go to another group, click on breakout rooms and move yourself to the group you would like to go, your second choice. Or just leave your group and someone will help you and get you to your second choice. So now to choose your breakout room, decide which group you want to join based on your Climate Action Group's current work. If you are not a member of a Climate Action Group, choose the room that interests you the most. So these are the breakout rooms. I think we need the other slide.
People, this is for people just to write down the group they want to join and have their second choice if they need it. So we'll just give it a minute.
Okay.
And the link to these, well, we'll do that later. I'm going to move on now. All right.
Okay. So thank you, Guy. When you get to your breakout room, you will have a full hour. Volunteers have offered to facilitate some of the groups. If your group does not have a facilitator, someone will hopefully volunteer. If your group does not have a note taker, someone will also hopefully volunteer. And all I'd like to say is pretty please help us out with that. So now, if you could listen very carefully, this is important. You will find a link to an all groups Google Doc in the chat. Open it and find the doc for the room you want to go to. In that doc, you will find your group's instructions. This will be where you keep your notes. The next slide. At the end of your breakout group, ask yourselves if you would like to report back any conclusions or plans in our final half hour. If yes, choose someone to give a 3-minute summary. Now, how to join your breakout rooms. The breakout rooms are now open. Find the 4 squares at the bottom of your Zoom screen. or click on the three dots at the bottom right. In a moment, click on Breakout Rooms and join your room. If you have difficulties, stay there and a member of our tech team will help you. If you could please join your breakout groups now, that would be wonderful. Thank you all so much for participating in those meaningful exchange of ideas and conversations. I was privileged enough to be in two groups, and so I thought they were really scintillating conversations. Now we have 25 minutes to hear back from groups that would like to share what they have been discussing and any progress towards collaborating on initiatives. Who would like to go first? Please raise your electronic hand if you feel, and if you feel I have mistakenly missed you, please unmute yourself and let me know. Thank you. And
if I can jump in, can everyone else mute yourselves so we don't get any distractions? So Jane is ready to go first. Tara.
yes, Jane, thank you so much, Jane.
Welcome. I thought I'd go first and then I can relax. So I was in the youth schools group. There were only 3 of us, and we were from BCC, Regenerate BC, and Greater Victoria Acting Together's Climate Justice Team. So what we're currently doing, Regenerate BC is working very hard on lowering the voting age to 16. And they've met with BC government officials and got told to try to lower the municipal age first, and that the BC government would probably show some support towards lowering the municipal age, although they were saying what they would do is make it possible for municipalities to opt in to lowering, whereas what we would want is just a blanket voting age change. But that's a big one. Regenerate BC is working on that. There's a Vote 16 youth group that's working on that and more. And then BCC has a program called Cool It that's been operating in the schools for ages and is an example of climate education with a bit of a game to it, in that the kids compete to see whose family can lower their greenhouse gas emissions the most over the time period. Which also led us to think about using fun ways. If you're talking about kids and youth, and Regenerate BC has cards that people have to sort into, groups have to sort into which one works best to lower the most GHG emissions, and kids love to do that card game. And then the reason I was there from Greater Victoria Acting Together is that we are planning to try to hire an organizer, a climate organizer, to work intergenerationally. We have a lot of seniors in Greater Victoria Acting Together. We don't have so many youth, although we do have the Camosun College Students Association as a member of us. But anyhow, we would like to do intergenerational organizing, and that's something that we're hoping to launch this year. Opportunities, if every climate group across BC intentionally tried to engage youth, did something to engage youth, and if they got the parents in their group to engage youth, that would be helpful. And to graduate, people have to put in, high school students have to put in credits of volunteer work. So we could be giving credits for volunteer work in our organizations. Schools tend to be really receptive. If you offer a field trip, if you offer a guest speaker, they're there. So you could do that. And we thought if we coached kids in honing their personal stories and delivering their personal stories, that could be used in so many ways at all candidates meetings, on videos that could go far and wide. And I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Jane. I think I'm going to ask Fair Vote Canada to get in touch with you because you have so many great ideas on Vote 16. And I think I can see Doug on my screen first. So would you like to go, Doug, please?
I'm about 5th in line, but if you, I can be quick. Thank you. I was the facilitator and note taker for the room called Health, which included art, which was fantastic. One of the ideas was to have a festival in your community, which will draw people in. It's entertaining. It will provide awareness and education. The 5 people in our room are involved in multiple different groups each. So there's a lot of coalition building going on, which is excellent. One of the big concerns was about the amount of disinformation that's still circulating in the world and how to combat that. And one sort of new nascent idea, which I put out, got a really positive reception, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. But that's the intersection of health and art was really, really valuable, and to bring different disciplines together to work together. Thanks.
Thank you. And because we're running out of time, I think I have Sue on my screen next. Sue, could you please go?
Sure. Just quickly, we were in the lighter living and zero waste group. And so we were looking at the opportunities that are coming up in terms of there should be some federal policy on right to repair. And also there should be some provincial, the province has committed to developing a circular economy strategy, but it's not going to be out or anything to comment on before the provincial election. So we also noted that the election for all of the groups, I'm sure, are going to be a key part to be making sure that candidates are supporting comprehensive action on climate change, including the strategy. There was some discussion about packaging and the fact that Canada is hosting the next global plastics treaty negotiations, and also discussing that it's the fossil fuel companies, which are also the plastics companies, that are trying to get in there and weaken things. So we noted that there will probably be a bunch of media that comes out around that. And so there's always opportunities to counter misinformation that comes from that. Noting also that it's a behavior change, and education will be important. Making sure that we have fair access to recycling systems, particularly those that are driven by extended producer responsibility programs under the recycling regulation here in BC. The province has been looking at that. So if something comes out where we can all comment on the results of that, we should. Composting was noted. And then we also had a good debate about the suitability and pollution impacts of thermal treatments like incineration, pyrolysis, gasification, plasmification, all the other words that the industry comes up with. And so we had some debate about whether or not that should play a role, although it doesn't officially meet the definition of zero waste or circular economy. But that's where we ended. Thank you.
And I have Shaylee. Could you report back, please?
Yeah, I'll be quick so lots of other people can go. I was in the forestry group. We had a lot of really great discussion. There's lots of fear, lots of not knowing what to do. We, we had Angie from Chase Environmental Action Society and Jean Blackstock from the Creston Climate Action Group. Both areas have suffered fires and are worried about the impacts on their watersheds. We did some great brainstorming about possible solutions. We're really looking at how to stop the spraying of glyphosate and BT. There was possibility of talking and joining with Suzanne Simard and working with more people to educate youth, perhaps going into schools. Really important to join with a hydrologist at one point in time to really get down to protecting watersheds and engaging and relationship building with Indigenous and regulation. So this was a big topic of conversation. They were saying that a lot of the time when a logging company makes a plan, their plan lasts for many years, up to 20 years. And they stick to that plan, regardless of the local situations that are happening. They don't look at the cumulative effects of drought and wildfire. If they had planned to log a block, they will log that block regardless of what happened around it. And so that was brought up as a major issue. So some way to change that regulation or petition or something would be great there. And then, yeah, more focus on cumulative effects because we need our forests. They're not just for economic value. Thank you. That's all I've got.
Thanks for that great wrap up. And I'll put, I think Tim was trying to raise his hand and he was unable to. So, Tim, can I call on you to just give a quick report back? Thank you.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I'm with the Trans Mountain Pipeline Expansion Group, and we just want to remind people that the pipeline is not built, and it is way over budget, on the order of now $35 billion. It started at 4.5 billion. And investors are extremely nervous about this fact. I was just out at the place where the pipeline has stopped. It's known as Hurling Island in the Fraser Valley. And the beautiful thing about a pipeline is it can't be finished until the last meter is built. So at Hurling Island, there's 2.5 kilometers still to go, and they are having severe technical difficulties. As I mentioned, the investors are nervous. There is a plan to start the pumping of oil before the leak detection system is in place. I would just, I'll put in the chat note about an action that's happening on the pipeline route at Gaglardy and Lougheed in Vancouver on March 31st, 2 p.m. start time. Would love to see you there. Allyship is the way we will stop this pipeline.
Thank you
Tara?
for that, Tim. And
Renee and Eric have been waiting for a while. They're top of the list, actually.
okay. So then next I'll go to Renee.
You're muted, Renee. Start again.
Sorry, there we are. This is a bit of a joint effort. I'd like to call on Ron. He's going to give his idea, and then I will round us out pretty quick. We were the Stop LNG group. Go ahead, Ron.
Thanks. Yeah, in terms of stopping LNG, it appears that public support for LNG is dropping down to 15%, whereas clean energy is up at 69%. The issue is that the government is not listening to what the people are saying. And the suggestion is that we have monthly protests outside every MLA's office between now and the election in order to make the MLAs aware that this is what the people want and that they should support what, you know, we as their electors want them to do. We can, you know, LNG, stop LNG, no more pipelines, no more LNG terminals, stop fracking, save our water. There's a whole list of things we can tag a whole list on, but let's use our strength in numbers that we have with WeCan to get the messages out. Okay, Renee, back to you.
Thank you, Ron. Okay, just quickly, they had two representatives who were with NDP on the provincial side of things, and they mentioned that the lobby within the government, correct me if I'm saying this wrong, but the lobby against LNG is growing and growing strong, and there's a lot of people within the government who are in the closet of being against LNG, but they won't come out because otherwise they'll be kicked out of the party by the whip. So Peter mentioned solar. There's a lot of other options out there that we can go to. And the big thing was, as Ron was saying, the lobbying and the public education seems to be lacking. It was pointed out by many a person. And we talked about a bit about transparency around the lobbying of the government. And one of the primary things that seemed to be of interest to the public was not LNG. You couldn't get their attention by using the term LNG. It just wasn't interesting. However, if you use the word taxes, that seemed to get their attention real quick. I think that about sums it up.
Thank you, Renee. And now I'll go to Eric, since I know you've been waiting for a long time, Eric. Sorry.
Thanks. Actually, this is a really good segue because we had a very engaged, diverse, and fairly large group of people with a lot of very I'd say varied activities that they're working on. This is with the Provincial Climate Policy Group, and segueing from that, saying we have a very important topic that we would like to influence decision makers. Well, what this group wanted to talk about was sharing ideas and tips and suggestions for how to actually go about that, how to influence those decision makers. Particularly the provincial government, but I think it applies anywhere you've got decision makers. And in order to do that, you have to get people engaged and people inspired and energized to do that. How do you do that? How do you get your volunteers and your people energized and inspired to do that? Who do you approach to begin with? Because you don't just necessarily need to go to the decision makers. There's a lot of supporting organizations, whether it's government, whether it's bureaucracies or businesses, institutions, sports groups, bureaucrats, unions, churches, that politicians will listen to. And there was actually a really good point made that the Climate Solutions Committee, which is a committee of the BC legislature, had no idea that WeCan existed. So there's definitely an opportunity there. There's a wide group of people that we can direct to influence. And how do we do that? We can start with letter writing. We know that it's powerful, but we also want to be inclusive because not everybody wants to write letters. So we talked about some different things: public speaking, research, even important. The important thing, and this was emphasized over and over and over again, was the importance of being organized and following up. It's not enough to just write one letter. You have to write another one, and then another one, and another one, and be persistent and ask for a meeting. And when that meeting gets canceled or rescheduled, you say, no problem. When can we meet? When can we meet? When are we going to have that meeting? And have that meeting. Be polite, but persistent. Follow up. Say who you are. Emphasize how many people your organization represents. Make sure that they hear that, and make sure that they know. Be organized. They don't have a lot of time. Meet them where they're at. If they're all business and suit and tie, then show up business, suit and tie. Don't sing a song. And then follow up afterwards. Thank them for their time. Be polite, be respectful, and then share what you learned with your group, and then do more. And that way we can build on that and gather energy in that way. Sometimes we're going to need to highlight the present emergencies. Don't talk about last year's fires. If there's fires going on and we've got a heat wave, that's the time to be writing letters with personal stories about how people are suffering right now, today, in the heat waves, in the fires, with the smoke, and write those letters and get on the phone and have those meetings and do that advocacy. So that was pretty much a summary of what we talked about in the group. I don't think I left too much out.
Okay, great. Thanks, Eric. And I'll go to Andrew now, because Andrew's on my screen.
Hi. So I was taking notes for the climate litigation group. We were a small but mighty group of 4 of us. And pretty much everyone there was interested in talking about the Subig oil campaign. Obviously, I'm connected to that, so I'm biased. I was happy to see that. But that was that was where we focused most of our discussion. Some of it was just general background discussion about the campaign and where it's at and how we're moving forward. But there was also a lot of interest in discussing both in relation to that campaign in particular, getting more groups that are actually sort of specialists in organizing and movement building involved in the campaign, but also I think more generally an idea that regardless of the Sue Big Oil campaign or climate litigation, that our movement in general needs to get more people piling on to specific campaigns and focusing our work rather than trying to be in 32 different buckets. So that was something I was specifically asked to make sure was in the notes, was the importance of figuring out how to collectively prioritize so that we can really have a powerful push, and maybe rotating where that push is, but being careful not to diffuse our efforts. I think that's the main takeaways. I mean, certainly there was a lot of excitement among the small group of us around sort of the fact that a legal approach says this isn't political. Dealing with climate change isn't political. There's a legal obligation here, directly taking the fight to the fossil fuel industry and holding them accountable, and the ability to be able to talk about the financial impacts of climate change and how that's affecting our tax dollars, and presenting a solution that holds that creates that link to the fossil fuel economy. Was also part of what we were talking about. So I think that's where I'll stop. Oops.
Thank you. And I think there was Brad Proctor, but I can't see him on my screen now.
Hi, I'm still here. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, apologies. My whole system went down and went black, so I had to try and log back in. And in turn, I'm doing this from my phone and from memory, but we'll go for it. So I was with the biodiversity and nature group, and we had a big and varied group. Lots of people in local sort of naturalist organizations. I think one takeaway was that we felt that there was a big opportunity to involve nature groups more in the climate movement, and that it can be actually somewhat surprising that many nature groups are not that involved in climate at this point, and in their content and in their programming, and that they'd be groups that would be interested in being, they just aren't yet. So that was one takeaway that was discussed. Another was we focused a little bit on restoration, and it as an opportunity to get individuals and youth in particular, but individuals out onto the land and their hands into the land to create opportunities where we would, use it as a community building to reduce climate anxiety, to bound people together socially when they're doing it, and create those connections to the land. Pulling invasive species and planting native plants. There was the discussion that currently there's funding from the governments and the municipalities for doing this kind of work, and it can be a good opportunity to segue into involving people into more climate work beyond that original work that you do as restoration, but it has that nice piece in that it's together and outside and on the land, and can be a nice place to get people interested in doing more climate work. We talked a little bit about the value of peatlands and how we feel like that's a message that's still less understood than we'd like it to be for climate work, and how valuable it is. And we think there's more messaging to do there. And I think we also discussed how we wanted to work on keeping the work somehow positive and uplifting, and find that hope in the work that we're doing.
Okay, thank you very much, Brad. And I'll go to Roger, last but not least.
Thank you. What a wonderful session. I think we would like to congratulate the presenters, the participants. I was with the public education, and there's so much already going on. It's really an inspiration. Regenerate BC seems to be one of the leaders, bringing education courses to the public and climate materials into the school. Small town of Paul River's got 250 people in their group. They've got a sticker campaign that they put something on all the poles in town. They commissioned a carbon footprint study. Glenn Hoos of the Down syndrome is a sustainability director. Regenerate BC are planning an event for Earth Day. Lori from First Things First has got a cool leadership program in the Okanagan. And it's just on and on. I don't know, I could spend another 10 minutes, but I think the collective wisdom here, let's take these ideas, put them together and see who can use them. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Roger. And now for the best part of the evening, the thank yous. So in Africa, there is a concept known as Ubuntu, the profound sense that we are human only through the humanity of others. That if we are to accomplish anything in this world, it will be in equal measure due to the work and achievement of others. Nelson Mandela. And on our own shores, this is propounded by the Inclusion Project with the event Ubuntu, Beyond Inclusion for Racial Justice on the 23rd of March in Victoria. With that, I would like to thank you, our participants, our facilitators, and our note takers and our report backers, because this CAPA could not have happened without you. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank our band of merry men and women on the CAPA team, Doug, Shaylee, Monica, Allison, Roger, Brenda, myself, and a lot of heavy lifting from Guy. Also, our fabulous tech team, Sebastian, Ezra, Eric, Shaylee, Monica, Allison, our network coordinator, Monica, and our previous ones, Murray and Sebastian. Last but not least, our fantabulous board. It's fantastic and fabulous all into one, which is the working board. We do operations as well as governance. This is Lily, Ricky, Sharon, Catherine, Eric, Sebastian, Sunil, Renee, Allison, Casey, Guy, and myself. Now, I will ask Guy to end us in a good way and steer the ship ahead. Good night, and thank you all.
And of course, thank you, Tara, for emceeing our thing all the way through. This is fabulous. So just to wrap up here, let me do a quick back on my slides. I had fun with the Emojipedia in doing all this one. So what's next? We're going to review each group's notes and do any follow-up that's needed and share the results in Weekend News. So that's a pretty big task. And so many ideas came up that we could do this and do that. But one of the things to realize, we are all volunteers in Weekend with one part-time network coordinator who's currently in Australia. Secondly, we have a Climate Action Group's intern working with us from May to July, thanks to a grant from the Pacific Institute for Climate Solutions. And that person, he or she, is going to meet with more than 100 of our most active member groups to learn more about your work and your needs so that we can develop ways to help you. And we welcome your suggestions for the next CAPA, which will probably be in May. We do encourage you to fill in the CAPA feedback survey, which you probably will get by email at the end of this automatically through Zoom. So we can learn what's working, what new directions do we go in. Tara asked me to mention this coming up, the movie called Warrior Spirit, the movie at the Rio Theatre in Vancouver on Tuesday, March the 19th, about Will George, who said, "My elders chose me to protect my nation from industrial threats. Now I'm facing prison time in a racist legal system." This is an out of nowhere image that I came across today for the very first time on BBC World. This is a creature in the real world. This is not created by AI. This is the blue dragon, Glaucus atlanticus. And it just says, this is the world we love that we're trying to protect, the incredible beauty of the whole thing. So just that's for no other reason, just to inspire us. It's also very toxic. And a reminder, we have now 239 member groups. Just think what we could achieve if we all pull together and really, I know we all want this and we'll get there. So final encouragement, we do encourage, if you're not a member of WeCan already as an organization, please do join. And I'm hoping Sebastian will put the link to that in the chat. Would you like to become a monthly donor? 100 friends a weekend. Myself and many others, about 30 of us are monthly donors. We'd love to get to 100 so we can really be 100 friends a weekend. because we're 95% of all our funding comes from your personal donations and your group membership fees and things like that. And finally, it's a huge big thank you to everyone. The word assembly is missing up there. I don't know why. Oh, there it is. It's white. So yeah, it's all of your effort. I know you go home tomorrow morning, you start on your own projects. We're all doing multiple things, but it's thank you to you and every one of your persistence, your love for the planet, your determination to keep going, your persistent optimism, your belief. So I'm going to stop sharing there and do a little thing that a little innovation. So I want everyone to go to View Gallery. So everyone go onto View Gallery and you can unmute yourselves. And what I want you to do, I enjoy holding hands in a circle. And how do you do that on Zoom? What you do is you put your hands up like this, so that half your hand is in the next person's group. Right?
Oh.
Now we're all holding
join together.
hands. And let's just have 10 seconds of silence while we're holding hands together. Yay, that's beautiful. So now you can yell out whatever you want and say thank you and all that stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you. So much fun holding hands.
It's great to see
Talk to you
so
all
many
soon.
people here.
Showing my hands.
There you go.
Thank
Thanks,
you
everyone.
all.
Thank
You're
you.
all free to go because we're going to have a technical debriefing meeting just to wrap up the bits and details. So thanks for joining us. Good night.
Good night.
Thank
you.
Hey.